The Irregular at high school, the Reminiscence arc. Well, the first thing that I gotta tell you guys is I was not expecting the Reminiscence arc to be a movie. I was expecting it to be a series, but I'm actually kind of happy that it was a movie because it was able to be this, nearly 90-minute, one and done story that they were able to tell versus chopping all of that up into, call it like 10 or so 19 to 20-minute episodes. It was actually preferable to see this full story really come to fruition and really play out. Now, when it comes to the Reminiscence arc, I think that the key thing to it is the word that's exactly in the title, and that is reminiscence. So when the movie opens up, we pick up immediately after the last arc from the Irregular at Magic High School, and we pick up to Miyuki and Tatsuya and Minami in their home, and they are, well, not they, but Miyuki is reminiscing about the past as she's kind of realizing that the life that she lives now, as she's looking at her brother Tatsuya, she's kind of just thinking about how she was able to get from where she was to this point today. And I really appreciate that, especially as a big fan of the Irregular at Magic High School. Like, I am super duper appreciative of this existing, because not only did recently we get the Honor at Magic High School, which is going to have a season 2, and what the Honor at Magic High School did was how do you explain it? It told a parallel story to the mainline Irregular at Magic High School story, but it did it from the view and from the eyes of Miyuki, and we got to see a bunch of different storylines kind of like sprinkled through, getting us through the core story of which happened. And it took Tatsuya being our MC, and it made Miyuki our MC, and I was super appreciative of that existing. Because again, as being a fan of the Irregular Magic High School, as being completely and utterly in love with Miyuki. I love Miyuki. She's like one of the best characters in anime. And again, this is all just super personal because I really like Irregular Magic High School. Now we have this other thing to where we get to see the beginnings of Tatsuya and Miyuki's relationship. And we get to see a lot of why Miyuki views Tatsuya how she does, why Tatsuya views Miyuki as he does. So kind of let me break down some of the initial barriers, and then I'll kind of go into the holistic story. So the two barriers that I want to break down is at some point in this movie, Miyuki dies, right? And if you have been watching the Irregular Magic High School, in the past, you know that Tatsuya has the ability to completely rebuild somebody and put them back in a former state. So he can put somebody, including himself, back in a former state. Now, what he loses from that is when he decides to use this power, he absorbs all the pain that that person felt when that situation occurred to them. So if you got 12 shots in the dome or in your body, he's going to be able to feel and absorb all that pain. Although nothing actually happens. It's just a lot of mental stress on him, but he's able to rebuild that. That's kind of why we see later on in the seasons, or yeah, we'll see later on in the season that he's more selective, with using those kind of abilities as opposed to kind of doing it willy-nilly. So that's like the first thing. So at some point in this movie, in this arc, Miyuki dies. She gets taken out by the army that is that's converting, that's turning on Japan, and Tatsuya has to save her. And up to that moment in the movie, Miyuki has been struggling with who is Tatsuya to me. I know he's my brother, but he's my bodyguard. He's my guardian. He's my family appointed bodyguard. He's my family appointed guardian. Is he guardian? Is he my brother? She's just constantly battling with this narrative in her head. Do I refer to him as brother? Do I refer to him as guardian? Is he a tool or is he family? Do I love him or do I just view him as disposable? What is he? Up to this point, she continues to struggle with this narrative. And I was like, oh, wow. Again, as a fan, as a viewer, as somebody who's enjoyed Regular Magic High School, it made a lot of sense as to why she views Tatsuya as he does. Because she was like, and she explains it at the very end of the movie, too. And she says a line to her, my life as my mother's daughter ended, and my life as my life that was breathed into me, or my life that has restarted, is the one that my brother gave to me. So I'm going to live everything, and my being is going to be for him. And she does that in a sense of everything he's given up for her, she wants to give it back. And this is the only way that she knows how to do it. So that's kind of where her overwhelming, love for her brother really stems from. And it carries on, through the rest of her life, for the next 4 or 5 years. And it really opens our eyes a little bit, because forever we're always daddling and dawdling on. The anime always plays with the narrative of that kind of like forbidden love. You know what I mean? And you never really know where it stems from. Something must have happened, but you don't know exactly what it was. And you don't know if it was just a complete obsession from a child up to now. But I was extremely, happy that we're finally giving context to that. And it makes a lot more sense now. Even though her love, may pass certain lines that it really shouldn't, but it does anyways. It's because she no longer views it as we're both the spawn from this one person. It's we're individuals, but the individual I am now was given to me by Tatsuya. It's not anything different. Then we have the the reverse, which is true. The reverse duality of that, which is the opposite, which is Tatsuya's story, right? And where his love for Miyuki stems. Now, Tatsuya does, for the most part, a pretty good job of keeping that distance, and keeping that line, making sure that he never crosses it as often as Miyuki. Like, Miyuki will almost just jump in Tatsuya's bed. But Tatsuya is a little bit more reserved, a little more resistant, although he does kind of play with those lines a little bit sometimes to kind of get what he wants and to point Miyuki in certain directions. He uses the existential love that he knows is there, because he's not completely dense, he's not completely stupid. But what I love is we finally got full context as to what happened to him. He was rebuilt and reconstructed by his mother and by his aunt. And I don't like the Shibuya with it, the Tatsuya, Shibuya, Shimiya, whatever family it is. I hate that family. And what his mother and his aunt did was they completely rebuilt and restructured him, because he was a failure of a magician. And because he was a failure of a magician, they basically imposed and put on fake magicules, I guess you could say, into his brain. So the part of his brain that you could say there was a missing puzzle piece for the magic, they put in a fabricated one in there so that he could produce magic. But since it still wasn't up to snuff, they still didn't make him a full-fledged person in the family. They instead made him a guardian, which is why he's a guardian. But during that operation, they essentially removed every other emotion that he had: hatred, jealousy, love, sexual desire, everything they removed. If he had to poop really bad, he wouldn't get mad about it. He'd just be like, wow, I got poop. You know what I mean? And they removed everything. But the little thing that they left there was chosen by his mom. And she could have chosen love for her. But instead, she decided to leave the love that he had existing for his sister. Therefore, it means that his sister is the most important person in his life. Now, we know as he's grown up, as he's matured, as the seasons have matured, we know that Tatsuya has found out a way to kind of reconstruct himself a little bit to faux create some of these motions, but do them in a intentional way, which I thought was really cool too. But it was definitely a really cool eye-opener to see where his love stems from for Miyuki and where Miyuki's love stems for Tatsuya. I think those both things were extremely eye-opening and extremely awesome to see, and really puts a lot of what the Irregular at Magic High School is, again, into context. And again, as a fan, we got to eat this stuff up. It's awesome. Now, the rest of the movie focuses a little bit on Minami, which apparently she's basically a faux or fake humanoid type person who was, created. She dies, so that's kind of where we know where Minami comes from, which is the butler maid type girl that is for Tatsuya and for Miyuki now. And we know where her looks stem from. And again, that's kind of what spurred Miyuki in thinking about this. Is they went to go visit her grave. They went to go visit her resting place where the original situation that they were dealt in took place. But the rest of the movie is really about relationships being built, showing us the Tatsuya Miyuki relationship, where it stemmed from, and kind of where and how it got to where it is now. And it really gave us a deep look at where their love comes from. But what the movie was, again, it was them going back before they were brother sister, and before they were just Miyuki and bodyguard. Then we got to see them, Miyuki question it throughout the movie. And then the scenes that happen are with the military, kind of like them having basically they had an intermingle resistance force within the Japanese military, to where I guess the American military was kind of like trying to impose on them, and they were trying to overthrow them. And the Tatsuya and Miyuki and their family, they kind of get just caught in the middle. Mother dies, Tatsuya reconstructs her. Old maid dies, the older maid dies. Tatsuya reconstructs her. Older maid saves Tatsuya. Tatsuya saves the day. He destroys everybody because they hurt Miyuki. And then we get to see where their love blossomed. I could go into a lot more detail, but if you watched the movie, which I'm assuming you did because that's why you're here, then overall, I don't really think I want to spend more time on recapping. So just know, I think this was awesome. I think it was better well served. I think they made the really cool decision and smart decision to make this a movie. I had no idea this was going to be a movie. I thought I was going to cover this all winter long, but instead it gets to be one shot and one long-ass review. But I think this movie was definitely really good. I would give this a 4.5 out of 5. I would give this a 8.5 to 9 out of 10. As a regular Magic High School fan, I cannot wait for more Irregular at Magic High School. I cannot wait for the next arc to happen with a regular Magic High School. I cannot wait for the next season of Honor at Magic High School. I can't wait for either of those two things to come. As a fan, I love that this has continual support. I know it does because of us, because of me, because of you. And I think that this was just a really, really cool arc, and I really enjoyed to see it. This was a perfect way to end 2021. If there's something I missed, put it down in the comments below. Put your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what else you thought about this movie. Let me know anything I missed. And what do you think now, knowing what you know now after watching this movie, what do you think of Miyuki and Tatsuya's love? What do you think about that? As a fan, let me know. Be real in the comments. Let's chat about it. But this movie was, the 2 thumbs up for me. Definitely really enjoyable. Definitely a beautiful way to end the year. Unexpected delight. I appreciate you guys being here for another anime review. This has been the Irregular at Magic High School Reminiscence arc. Thank you for being here. And we'll see you on the next Irregular at Magic High School coverage. And if you're wondering what we're going to cover in the winter, well, check that video out right here. All right, my friends, I'll see you on the next one.